One area where trafficking survivors may need legal assistance is deciding if they want to report their trafficking victimization to law enforcement and where to report if so. Reporting trafficking victimization is important for eligibility for some benefits, such as a T visa, and may also be important to a survivor as part of their personal recovery process. In this video, we'll discuss how to help your trafficking survivor client decide if they want to report and if so, where it best meets their needs and goals. First, as your client's legal representative, you'll want to find out the client's goals and level of comfort in engaging with law enforcement. For example, do they want the trafficker investigated and potentially prosecuted? Do they want to recover unpaid wages or seek monetary damages? Or do they want to do the minimum possible in order to file for a T visa? The client's answers to these types of questions will help you identify the next steps to help them meet their identified goals. In addition to ascertaining the client's goals, there are a few other considerations to keep in mind when determining the best agency where your client can report their victimization. First and foremost, you'll want to ascertain the client's level of comfort in participating in interviews or potentially going to court. If they don't feel comfortable with much engagement with law enforcement, then you may want to pick a law enforcement agency you think is less likely to be interested in opening an investigation or conducting an interview. Another consideration is whether any part of the trafficking victimization, a physical assault for example, has been reported to law enforcement, and whether the client feels comfortable continuing to engage with that agency. If that's the case, you may be able to follow up on the client's behalf with that agency to ensure that the trafficking crime itself was reported. Remember that a client's criminal record and past immigration history will impact the risk assessment related to engaging with a particular law enforcement agency, and may impact the client's willingness to report to that agency. Finally, the type of trafficking victimization suffered and the agency's reputation for being trauma-informed and victim-centered should factor into the analysis of where to report. After gathering this information from the client, you'll want to review potential law enforcement agencies where you could help the survivor report their trafficking. The specifics of the client's case and their goals will impact which law enforcement agency may be the best to receive a report. The regulations and policy manual include a list of possible law enforcement agencies where a survivor may report their trafficking victimization for T visa purposes. Note that there is no requirement in the T visa regulations and statute to report trafficking victimization where it occurred. Rather, a client may report their victimization to a federal law enforcement agency where they are currently residing. If you do not have experience reporting trafficking victimization or helping a survivor report in an unfamiliar jurisdiction, we recommend consulting local nonprofit agencies and legal advocates working with trafficking survivors in that jurisdiction to get information about law enforcement agencies in that area. Many nonprofit agencies have been specifically funded to work with trafficking survivors for years, and therefore often have useful experiences to share regarding law enforcement reporting and engagement. Some questions to ask are: what is a law enforcement agency's tendency to request an interview in a particular type of case? And whether the agency tends to partner with other law enforcement agencies, and if so, which ones? You'll also want to assess whether the law enforcement agency tends to have good rapport with survivors, and in particular, whether they operate in a trauma-informed and victim-centered manner. If not, there may be an agency that is preferable for the survivor to report to. In the end, it's important to remember that the client should be in the driver's seat. As legal advocates, our job is to help our clients attain their goals in a way that they choose and feel comfortable with. For more tips and strategies on how to help a trafficking survivor report their victimization to law enforcement, please see CAS's Law Enforcement Cooperation Guide, available via the link in the description below. If you have a specific question after reviewing our free materials and trainings, please feel free to submit a request for individual technical assistance by visiting the website on your screen, and we'll respond by email. Thanks for joining us today.